Hello, welcome. I'm Claudia if you're new here, and if you're back, thank you so much for coming back. Today we're going to talk about grow lights. It is daylight savings time, whether it ends or whatever this weekend, or for you it'll just have happened this past weekend. And what better time than talk about grow lights? Our plants need them the most this time of year. I made a video ranking my favorite grow lights, I want to say just about a year ago, but I only talked about like my top favorite grow lights. And there are other grow lights that I do use, and also I have tested and tried a couple of other grow lights since then that I like more than others that I mentioned in that video. So I kind of want to update that a little bit. I want to show you every grow light that I use and then let you know how much I love it or not, or like whether it's good enough, does the job, or it really is a good quality and efficient grow light. I got into grow lights very early on in my plant journey. I got them with my very first fiddly fig. Not right away, but as I quickly started to struggle with it, I was desperate to make it work, and I found Houseplant Journal, and he talked about grow lights, and obviously I wanted one that was aesthetic. Anyway, I got some bulbs that were crap, and eventually got a Soltech pendant light, and my fiddly fig started growing all through winter, and I was just a believer ever since. As you know, those aesthetic pendants are quite expensive, so I've tried an array of grow lights in search of what's more effective, what I can still make look good. Yeah, I've tried so many grow lights like you wouldn't even know. Today, I'm really particular and picky in trying new grow lights because a lot of them are crap, honestly. And yeah, why waste the time, money, energy on something that you already know is not gonna work? So yeah, I'm very particular. Having said that, over the last year, I have tried, I wanna say 3 different grow lights and grow light types that I have actually been really impressed by, or at least 2 of them, and that's what sparked this video. I want to update it and share those with you, but also share with you all of the other lights that I do use, and then give you, you know, their pros and cons and why I do use them, even if maybe they're not the best. Grab a notepad, take some notes. Just kidding, you don't have to. But I hope that sounds good to you, and let's get started. Quick disclosure before we get started, I am affiliated with several of these grow lights that I'll be chatting with you about, but my opinions are completely honest, and these are the way that I felt and I have shared before in my social media channels, even before I was affiliated with them. And regardless of whether I'm affiliated with them or not, I am going to share with you the pros and cons of each of them. I'm gonna start with my all-time favorite grow light, and that hasn't changed from last year, and it hasn't changed since I started it, and that is the Russo pendant grow light. This is my absolute favorite, and for me, best overall, because it is aesthetic, it's beautiful, it like goes with any decor, it's nice and seamless, it's a pendant, but also it is so effective and powerful. The magic behind this light is the adjustable beam, so you can control the intensity of the light, whether it's going to hit a more concentrated area at a higher level of light or a wider area for a lesser level of light, which also gives you flexibility when hanging it. So you don't have to commit as much as to where you're hanging it, because you can use the beam to adjust the intensity of the light that the plant is getting. I have one Russo pendant, and then I have the Russo track system that has 2 of the pendants, and they're both in here in my office space. So the pendant actually powers all of my variegated monsteras. Wait, are they here? Yeah, right here in the corner. And that is their primary light source, and they all do well, beautifully. It's plenty of light. They get, well, it depends on different levels, but I usually like my Monstera Albo, that's the taller one, it's getting over 2,000 foot candles of light from that light. And again, the fact that that one pendant can efficiently and effectively give light to all of these variegated Monsteras, in my opinion, is quite impressive. The only bad thing I have to say about this light is that it is quite pricey. It's an investment. I believe they used to be $160, and I believe they are now $180. I can confirm the price for sure, but he does do also pretty good Black Friday sales, or like he does them like twice a year, I believe, and he gives like an additional 20% off, and my discount code is often stackable on those discounts. So that it has been when I have bought my lights, by the way. I have paid for both of my Russo plant care lights, the pendant and the track system. I paid for those out of pocket myself, so. And the reason I don't have more is because they're pricey, but I would love to get a Russo track system over for this wall over here on top of my Millsbo wide cabinet, because I just feel like that's what would work best. The ceiling is higher over there, and because of the adjustable beam, I know that I would be able to get the light that the plants need in various areas of the wall. So yes, Russo plant care pendant light, still in my opinion, best overall. The other pendant light I have and use, and I have actually quite a few of them and also have their track system, is the Soltech. And I love this light because it is beautiful. It is very, very pretty, very aesthetic. It also similar to the Russo. I mean, dare I say, it's even more aesthetic than the Russo, I think, in my opinion, just because the Russo has the little window-ish design on them. That would be, I guess that's my only complaint on the Russo. I wish it was solid like the Soltech. Also, in comparing them, the Russo is slightly cooler white than the Soltech. The Soltech is a little bit warmer white, which I find easier on the eyes. But those are such little differences that that's not really where my, that's not where I'm drawing the line of why I like Russo more than Soltech. So I have 4 Soltech pendants and their track system with 2 lights, and the reason I have more is because I actually didn't learn about Russo until maybe 3.5 years ago or so, whereas Soltech I learned about from the very beginning. So I was kind of saving up my money as my collection was growing and buying the Soltech lights because that's what I thought was available in the aesthetic department that I wanted. And let me be clear, the Soltech lights are not bad. They are great lights and they're beautiful, but why I'm ranking them, or why I think that Russo is superior, is that Soltech does not have the adjustable beam, so you actually do need to, like for example, they do power my fiddly fig that's in my bedroom. I have the track system with 2 lights and then a pendant right above, but they do need to be quite close to the plant to get the foot candles that the plant needs. I would say they need to be within 2 feet to really be able to give the plant what they need, and really it's like 1 pendant per light. They do have the track system lights available in a wide beam or a narrow beam, and I got the narrow beam so it's more concentrated, but even the narrow beam lights really need to be within that 2-foot range to give the fiddly fig. I think it's getting, I don't know, I don't want to lie, but I don't know that it's getting over 1,500 foot candles in that 2-foot range, even with the narrow beam lights. So that is where I think that they're great lights, but could be better. What I love about Soltech, as I said, is they're very aesthetic. What I don't love so much is the effectiveness, I guess, again, because they need to be placed within a certain range to really give the plant what they need, and they're quite pricey. I believe that they're $1.99. They do also have sales a couple times a year, and that's how I've purchased my lights before, but again, they are a little bit more expensive. Next, let's talk about bulbs. Now, I'll say that I actually haven't used a bulb in probably 8-ish months at this point or so, but the only bulb that I have found to be truly effective and powerful for plants, or like, you know, good enough to actually make plants thrive or help plants thrive, is the Sansi bulb, and that is the 36 watt, I believe that it is. That bulb is really, really great. I used to have it on fiddly figs, on a bird of paradise, and it's great. I love that you can fit it in any regular light fixture, so it's super easy. Now, what I don't love is it looks quite industrial, so if you don't have some sort of shade or something that you can disguise it with, it's not very attractive to look at. And also the color is very cool white, which I also don't love. I just feel like for a home environment, the very cool white just makes it very sterile, like hospital lighting, and yeah, that's not my favorite. favorite, but I will say that that bulb has been the only bulb that I have found to actually be really effective and efficient when it comes to plant growth. And it's also very affordable and frequently goes on sale. Speaking of bulbs you can add to a lamp, so similar to like a floor lamp situation, I tested, or I've tried, the Barrina vertical lights, most recently the T1S, and then I also have last year's version, which is, I think it's just called like T10 or like T10. I'll make sure to note it for sure. And in my opinion, these are far better, or okay, I won't say far better, but these are a very great and effective and efficient option at a good price point. And in particular, their new T1S version. That light is powerful. One of the first things I do when I try new grow lights is check their rating for foot candles, and this light gets like over 1,500 foot candles at like from like 2 feet apart. Like I was just very, very impressed and very, very blown away by that. Like in fact, I actually have it. Initially I placed it over on my fiddly fig in my living room, but because of the color, I like it better for this space. So I brought it over here on this corner. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, to light up the top of the console. And I should probably back it up some because it did burn my Philodendron Glorious's leaf. I actually ended up cutting it off because it was just like, it was very burnt. I believe the light is in the $80 range, but they often have a coupon code that you can apply right on Amazon. I have a coupon code you can apply right on their website, and they do also, Barrina in general runs sales frequently on their website and on Amazon. So for how powerful the light is and for how wide of a space, of a range it covers, I think it is an excellent choice for your planty light needs. Now their last year's version, which is a T10, I think, again, I'll make sure to note it on the screen, is pretty good, but you do need to have it a little bit closer and you get more like 800 foot candles. So it's not quite as powerful. It's also a little bit skinnier, but it is also very effective. I think it's a very good option for the price point. And again, it covers at least a tall vertical area and probably like 1.5 to like 2 feet width range. So both great options in my opinion, and I would highly recommend both of those. They are available only, I think the new version is available in black and silver, and then last year's version, the T10, is only available in the black, which are the things that really, really bother me about that, because I want white. I want them to be really seamless and to not know they're there, but that's okay. One more thing I'll mention about this year's version, the T1S, is that it's super sturdy. So the very first version they released last year that had kind of like the tripod feet on it was quite flimsy and it was knocking over all the time. They then later released another one that had a sturdier base, and that one's pretty good, but this year's version is even sturdier. So I would, and there's similar price ranges. I think that the T10 is like $60 and the new one is 80-ish. So it's not too big of a price difference, and in my opinion, you're getting a way better light. Similar category with the vertical lights, I also have the Mother Spectrum light, and I know that lots of people really rave about this light. I'm gonna come out and say that it's not my favorite, and I wouldn't pick that one out in a lineup, and then especially having the Barrinas available, and here is why. The price point is very, very high. I believe it's $200 or even possibly a little bit more. It is not sturdy at all sitting on the floor. It is always falling down, and I don't love how cool the white is. The white is quite cool, and again, for a home space, it is not my favorite. And similar to the Soltech situation, it does need to be pretty close to the plant to give the plant the light that it needs. I mean, depending on the plant, right? But if you really want to get like the 800 plus foot candles, it has to be about a foot and a half away at most. Now, I will say, if I had the mount to place it in a horizontal manner, or if I was mounting it on a shelf, like underneath a shelf for bottom lighting, I think that I would appreciate it a lot more than I do as a vertical light. But its price point alone, honestly, I think that we have better, more effective and versatile options. Now the lights in my cabinets. So my Millsbo Tall has exclusively Barrina T5 lights, and those lights are fine. They're not great at all. If I had it my way, I would switch all of my cabinet lights for one of two other options that I will chat with you about next. But the Barrina T5 lights, they are fine. They are not great. Even at short distances, you're really only getting like 400 to 600 foot candles, which is not bright light, which is what most of the plants that we place in our cabinets want. So I do have a lot of extra of the T5 lights in the cabinet, so I have them going all down vertically, and then each level I have two, and then the half shelves I have one in all of those. But even with that, again, the most light a plant is getting is probably 600-ish foot candles, which is not ideal. And I've always noticed that growth in my Millsbo Tall is a lot slower than my Millsbo Wide, and I will tell you why next. So my Millsbo Wide has the T5 lights in addition to the Soltech Grove lights. It has two of the Soltech Grove lights in the very front, and they swivel, so they're like pointed down in like this. So hopefully all the plants are facing forward, if that makes sense. And the Grove lights have really made a huge difference in the Millsbo Wide cabinet. I do still have the vertical lights, the T5 vertical lights, and I have two. So I have two T5s on top, plus the Grove, the angle, and then I have one set of T5s vertically, and then on the half shelves I have another T5 on each. But I think it's the Soltech Grove light that's really making a difference. I mean, when I measure light at the same distance on my Millsbo Wide versus my Millsbo Tall, it is quite significant, and I know that it's coming from the Grove lights. So if I had it my way, I would switch them all to either be Grove lights, or I guess I'll speak with you about the Grove lights next. But yes, the T5s are fine. They're not great. They will maintain, and yes, your plants will grow because in general they have like pretty good conditions. But if you're really hoping to provide that great bright light for your plants, the T5s are likely not going to cut it unless you're placing them quite close to them. So the T5s are pretty meh in my opinion, but they are very affordable. You can get them in packs. They daisy chain, more accessible. So they have all of those benefits, but yeah, I think that they're quite lacking in performance. So next to the Soltech Grove light, I was actually really impressed by these lights. Again, the reading that I'm getting there, I love that they swivel, they actually dim, they have different or they have like 3, I think, dimmable settings. I have them on the brightest one. They're very sleek, true to Soltech style and aesthetic. They're very, very beautiful. They're very seamless and incorporate into your space. You wouldn't even know that they're in there. Like, that's just how much they incorporate into it. They have the beautiful warm color. I mean, just everything. I really can't complain. I think that they're great lights for a cabinet, and yeah, very, very much like those and would recommend them. They do come at a quite hefty price point. I forget what the price point is. I will note it on the screen because I'm not sure. I saw they recently came out with an attachment for the Grove lights where it can be kind of like a stand situation, and you know, you can move the Grove light completely like 90 degrees in either direction, plus it swivels. So I think that that is a great feature for that, and overall I would highly recommend it, but again, the price point is hefty. The second option I would replace my lights with in my cabinets if I could are the Vego Garden grow lights. So the, I don't know what you call strip lights. Is that what they're called? I don't know. But that's what I would replace them with. I set up my grow cart with you, and I was so impressed by the foot candle reading from the you know, where they were mounted onto the very bottom of the shelf, that I went ahead and I replaced my grow lights from this console underneath my window to the Vego grow lights. And I initially ordered 4 of them for the console, but I really only ended up needing 2. My Hoyas are sun stressing. They're growing so nicely. I am truly so impressed by those grow lights. I had no idea. And they have multiple settings, which is, I mean, I have them on the leafy setting because that's what I'm growing, but different levels of intensity. Obviously, the leafy is the strongest one. So, you know, depending on what you have or whatever, or like the distance you have them from. So similar to that adjustable beam from the Russo lights, these would work in a similar way with the way you're able to dim. And they have a built-in timer that I am actually not sure how to work, but somehow either me or my husband programmed it over in the grow cart so they come on and off on their own without needing to have some sort of smart timer or plug-in that you use for them. And yeah, I'm just truly so impressed with those lights. The lights also have a stand adjustment that I got for the top of the shelf. I don't know if you can see it, it's over here on this corner, but I'll insert B-roll otherwise. And that adjusts so you can lift or lower. And also the lights, from what they attach to, and either with adhesive or magnets or whatever, they swivel, which I love. I think it's such a great feature that, you know, you can swivel them this way so that the plants are facing you and the light is not just coming from directly above. And I want to say each light is around the $60 range, so not super cheap, but if you compare them to the Grove, they are a lot more accessible. I also saw that for the Prime Big Deal days, they did have a coupon for a lot of the Vego Garden products on Amazon. So, you know, if you look for sales, so you might be able to get lucky, but I am truly impressed by these lights. And if I could, I would replace anything that I like, my grow rack or my cabinets would all have the Vego lights, because they are, yeah, I'm just so impressed and blown away by their performance. I didn't know that strip lights could be that powerful and that efficient. Over in my grow rack, well, formerly grow rack, it's now the Vista shelf, I have the Barrina T8 lights, and these are much better in terms of their power and how much light they provide for the plant. However, what I don't like is their color. These are quite cool white, and I believe they are actually available in a warm maybe, but I know they're for sure available in the pink. But the color would be my biggest complaint on these, and I also feel that the price point is a very big jump in comparison to the T5s. And it makes me feel also, if I'm investing that much in T8s, then I would much rather invest just a little bit more for the Vego Garden. I'll also say the Vego Garden has a beautiful warm color, just because I feel like I'm not mentioning it on all of them. But when I remember. The T8s are definitely better, but I still think the Vego are the best. The Vego also daisy chain. That is a big benefit of the Barrinas. The Barrinas daisy chain to each other, so it makes it super simple. The Grove lights don't. They each have their own plug. But yeah, finally the last light I use is the Sansi clip light. I believe this is a 10 watt, I'll have to confirm, but I love these. These are small but mighty. However, they're really only good for one plant. I actually have 3 of them over on this wall, which I don't love. If I only had like the one on one plant, it would be fine. But again, this just lets you know that I overall just need more light in this space. But these do a pretty good job at providing a very decent amount of light. I would say like 600-ish foot candles per individual plant. And you know, you can move the light either a little bit closer or a little bit further depending on what the plant is, if you want to give it a little bit more light. But these are small but mighty, and they also have a really great price point. I do think they went up a little. I think they're like 19 now, whereas last year we could get them for as low as like 10 at some point. But they also do frequently have sales, so they're easy to grab, and you know, for emergencies or like super dark spots where you want to fit a plant, then they're the great option to add. Those are all the lights that I use. I hope that you found this information helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I always measure light by foot candles. That's what Houseplant Journal taught me and what makes sense to me. I know that a lot of lights will mention their PPF something. I don't know what that is or what it means. Again, I learned by foot candles, and I have a pretty good idea of how many foot candles each plant needs, or like different types of plants need. I would recommend getting a light meter so that you know for sure if maybe, you know, you think you have a super bright window, but it's in fact not letting in all the light that you think it is. Our eyes just really can't tell. And I can link Daryl's houseplant journals. He has this little table of like, depending what the plant is, how many foot candles you should be aiming for. I used to reference that all the time at the beginning of my planting journey, and it's helped me so much. Again, now I just kind of know based on what the plant is. But yeah, I'll link all of that below. If you have any questions, drop them down. I love chatting with you. I hope that this was helpful and get you and your plants ready so that you can continue to thrive all season long, even though our days have gotten so much shorter. Thank you again so much for choosing to spend your time with me. I look forward to seeing you really soon. Bye.